Welcome to Officially Off the Record, season 4.5 opener. I'm your host, Ramaj, and it feels so good to be back. It is great to be in the place, and I'm excited. But before we get into today's episode, I would be remiss if I did not pay special attention and tribute to some amazing celebrations happening this month. So happy Pride. It is June, and Pride Month is a celebration and an affirmation for the LGBTQ plus community, our history, our identity, and our contributions to society, and all the things that we represent in all of our glory. So happy Pride Month. Also, happy National Immigration Heritage Month. National Immigration Heritage Month is a time dedicated to honoring the profound contributions and the roles that immigrants have played in our society. And I think that given what is going on in the climate of our country and all the things that we are seeing specifically on this side of the map, it is nothing but important to acknowledge that. And then finally, happy Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And this month is a month that raises awareness around topics, conversations, and all the things that are needed for men, no matter how we look, how we identify, and who we are. And so that brings me to this episode that we have here. This episode is our season 4.5 opener, Me versus Me, a look at all things sexuality, spirituality, business, personal and professional, for me. I have gotten so used to telling the stories of other Black people, and we started this platform officially off the record 5 years ago. And shout out to my team. We started it 5 years ago to amplify the stories and the voices of Black people. And I think I've gotten so busy telling everyone else's story that I haven't gotten busy telling my own. So before we kick off this wonderful season, and we have an amazing lineup of guests this season, but before we kick off this season, I wanted to introduce to some and reintroduce others to me. So in this episode, Me versus Me, what I have done is I've asked some of my most loyal viewers who have been here with me since the days of Zoom, when we were pre-COVID shots, super pandemic, um, and then we transitioned to Instagram, and now we are here in studio. So shout out to our friends at the Hive. But I've asked some of our most loyal viewers and some of my friends and my family to submit a list of questions that they wanted to know about me. And so I figured what better way to open up the season than to share me. So this is Me versus Me. And I also want to shout out two people who inspired this episode as well. Carrie Hilson now has a new album out called We Need to Talk. And all right, I think it's called, yeah, I think that's what it's called. But she has a new album out. But there is a series of shows and clips that she's been doing on YouTube called We Need to Talk. And she's having conversations with herself and letting the public in on who she has been and what she's been doing since she's been off the map. And then also, Jay Two Times, one of my close friends, confidants, and fraternity brother, who records right here in this same studio, and he did a single shot episode and just unloaded, and I thought it was really, really great. And so I was encouraged by that, and I felt like this was a great way. Oftentimes people ask me questions, and I think so many different people know me in so many ways, and so here's an opportunity for everyone to get to know me in the same way. So without further ado, we are going to start Me versus Me. Very excited. We've got a list of questions broken down by category. So we're just going to start with an intro and catch up. So one of the questions that someone asked, and some of these things that you're going to hear me respond to are going to be in super real time. So I'm excited. So just sit back, anchor in for the next hour or so. So what have you been up to since your last show? So last year we recorded in the studio here, and I walked away really excited about the episodes that we were going to produce. And somewhere between my walking away and my overthinking it, those episodes just got lost in the shuffle, literally and figuratively. But since then, my consulting business has taken off. We just did some really, really major work with one of the leading pharmaceutical companies in the United States of America. I have written uh, two different books, in addition to my initial men's mental health journal, Men Are Right, um, doing men's mental health focus groups once a month, and working on myself. That's really what I've been up to, is working on myself. I didn't even know I was working on myself, but working on myself, and trying to understand what it takes to survive. That's what I've been up to. I didn't think that would be the answer, but that is definitely what I've been up to. And it's definitely been a journey. There's been some ebbs and some flows, which I'm gonna get into in this episode. And the next question is, June is Men's Mental Health Month. How are you? I just said to someone the other day that I hadn't been feeling like myself lately. Um, I recently sustained, and I say sustained because I survived what I sustained, but sustained a break in a relationship of sorts. And so it was very abrupt, very quick. And so lately, from middle of May to now, today, which is June 11th, 2025, I've been kind of crawling my way out of what I felt was a much needed hole, and flipping my perspective. I think a lot of the times we get down on ourselves and this woe is me. And I always think that there's a balance between like reality and toxic positivity. And so I've been in a hole, I think, but the hole has been a hiding place for me as well. So every day waking up in the morning, almost like clockwork at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., journaling, doing devotionals, building a new devotional for those whose hearts are breaking or whose lives are changing. And so not feeling like myself, and all while at the same time recalibrating myself. And so most days I'm good. Some days I'm sad or I feel sadness. But I'm also learning to embrace my feelings and then admit them, which is something that I never did before. I just would roll things off and just let them be. So, all in all, I am recouping, I'm recovering, um, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see who I'm going to be as this whole journey evolves. So, those are our intros. And so we're going to get into question section number one, the soul of you. So we've got some really good questions again, some of which I've never seen them and I'm answering them in real time. What eye opening truths has God revealed to you about yourself? I think one of the things that God has shown me about who I am is that I don't have the opportunity, or I shouldn't, not that I can't, not that I shouldn't, but that I have to be responsible. That's it. I have to be responsible. Um, I think some of us, we're all called to something. And some of our callings, all of our callings are different. And one thing about myself that not a lot of people know, who may be watching this, I lead a prayer group every day. And I lead two of them. I've been leading one of them since 2016. And so there's a certain standard that I hold myself to. That doesn't mean I'm better than anyone, but also if you believe in spirituality and all those things, there's certain things that you do that just weigh your spirit man down. And as an encourager in the kingdom, I gotta hold myself to a high standard. And I guess the better language would be a high standard as opposed to a higher standard, because I'm not better than anyone else. But just rooting back to the question, what has God revealed to me about me, is that I don't have time to play, because I know the things that I've done that are playful. And I was just saying before this episode, um, sometimes the disobedience that we represent, it holds us back. And delayed obedience to our calling is often disobedience as well. So I don't have time to play. I think that's what God has revealed to me. And I'm learning what that looks like. In simple terms, like being obedient, shooting this episode. Um, this episode came about maybe 4 days ago. I was laying in bed and it kind of just came to me because I wanted to get back to this. I wanted to get back to the studio. I wanted to get back to sharing the content and recording and this message that God implanted in me 20 years. not 20 years ago, 5 years ago, sorry, in 2020. So I don't have time to play. So I'm hitting the gas full throttle. We don't know what it looked like, but we're hitting the gas and trusting God. The next question is: in the face of disappointments, what fuels your motivation to keep pushing forward? Um, that's a hard one to answer in real time. I think one of the things I would say is that I'm resilient. I know that. I know that I've been laid off. I've been broken up with. I have had my car repossessed. I have lost friends. I've had near death experiences. I've lost a parent. In some ways, I feel like I've lost a relationship with some of my siblings, and all those things are pockets of disappointments. And so I think what motivates me to move forward when things are disappointing is that I know I've done it before. You know, people say you have survived 100% of your worst days. And while that seems like a catchy phrase kind of thing, that's true, right? One of my favorite sayings by Tina Knowles is: when you're going through it, it's called going through it. You're not going to get stuck there. You're not going to die. You're going to survive. And so in times of disappointment, I do remind myself, like, okay, all right, big dog. It feel real shitty right now, but it's gonna get better. um, so I think that's what fuels me, is just knowing it's gonna get better. But also, like, what I'm also learning is to really sit in the moment. I think I used to, and also having a background in education, you're supposed to motivate the kids and think positive and speak positive. And of course, we want to speak words of affirmation and life over ourselves and other people. But I think I got so lost in that it became toxic positivity, and I didn't feel the feelings. I didn't embrace the emotions. And now at 41 years old, that's what I'm doing. I'm saying, damn, that sucked. That feels bad. I am sad about that, but I'm gonna still keep going. Whereas in the past, I'd be like, okay, cool, it happened. I'm gonna keep going. I didn't embrace or feel that moment, those emotions. The next question is: you are such a bright light. What weighs on your heart the most when the world isn't watching? One of the things that weighs on my heart the most is like, whatever happened to all those artists from Bad Boy? This is not a shout out to Diddy, let's be very clear. But like Danity Kane, The Locks, Mace, Faith Evans, like how they didn't succeed. That's my thought. That's my thought. That's my TED talk. Welcome to it. But how did they not succeed, right? Um, money. They did not succeed because of the money, right? But that's the thing. I promise you, that's why I be thinking at nighttime, like, damn, can we get a Danny Kane reunion? But that's one of the things that I do think about. In all seriousness, like, where they at? Um, the other question is, what is one gem you drop for someone trying to figure out life in their 30s? I thought about this. So in 2018, I officially retired from being a teacher. After 10 and a half years being a teacher and in education and an administrator of sorts, I remember withdrawing, and we talked about this last season. I withdrew my retirement fund, and I had $43,000 after 10 and a half years. And when I got the check back, I remember it was like the week of Christmas break, and it was like $33,500. The most money I have ever touched at one time in my life. I remember paying my tithes immediately. If you ain't paying your tithes, pay them. And then I put some money aside for my mama for her birthday, and then I sent my line brother $500, and I did some other things. Got a new alternator. I got my house done. I moved into an apartment. All the things, but in my 30s, I wished that um someone would have shared with me, was when I was trying to figure out my life, like, put that money up somewhere. Put that in a Roth, put that in some type of savings, a CD, a something, a stock. But at the same time, because I do live by like no regrets, I am grateful that I got to spend a year going to Chipotle and to Target. We don't go to Target anymore. And to Target and to Walmart. We don't go to Walmart anymore either. And shopping on Amazon. Damn, we don't go to Amazon either. I don't know what we're gonna do now. But then I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to just live for a year, and just kind of, use my supplement income plus my retirement. But I do wish that someone would have kind of guided me financially. And so I think a gem that I would drop to someone in their 30s is like, get your money and put it up somewhere, right? I saw something on Instagram last night where someone was looking at like the Don Julio bottles and the Crown bottles. When you go to the club, they be like $400. When you go to Specs, they're like $30, right? Like, use your money, spend your money wisely. You don't have to trick off or blow a bag or whatever the kids are saying these days. You don't have to do those things. But I think a gym again is like investing your money wisely. And in our Black community, sometimes because the generations before us and the people that we were raised by didn't have the financial wealth management, didn't have the education or the knowledge, some of us grew up with that, right? That was our example. Payday loans, errands, cons, rent a center, like those were our realities. And so some of us saw getting money quick and spending it even quicker. And so where some of us, like me at 41, are learning better habits. So really, I wish somebody would tell me at 41, go get your money and put it up somewhere, which is what I'm doing. When life feels like it's falling apart, how do you keep showing up other than prayer? Um, I often show up passive aggressive. And that's something that I'm working on. When I have conflict with people or confrontation, sometimes I can show up passive aggressively, and that's not always a good thing. I think it's never a good thing. But I just keep showing up. And sometimes when I show up anxious, I show up nervous. But I think when life gets hard, I just keep showing up. I show up very flawed. um, I sometimes show up sporadically, but I show up. And I think that's something that I'm proud of myself for. What I'm learning to do is also praise myself and celebrate myself for the things, as opposed to just being like, damn, you arrived to this interview and you were sweaty, but I showed up. Or like, dang, you had a confrontation with a friend, and you were passive aggressive, but I stuck it out. Or, those kind of things. And then being able to also go back and apologize where I'm wrong and fixing that. And that's something that I've really been doing lately, is anchoring in a lot of these courageous conversations, pushing myself. And that's another way to show up. I push myself to advocate for myself. I grew up not feeling love, not feeling seen, being this young Black gay boy trying to figure it out. And so wanting everyone's approval, battling with the spirit of acceptance and rejection. And so as I grew up and I got older, I just let people do and say whatever they wanted to me in regard to me and mishandle me. And so now I'm going back and reclaiming that and having conversations that I'm showing up for myself. Kudos you. Yeah, you. Cash out us some money later. And so um we know that it is faith over fear, but dig deep and tell me your biggest fear. Um I like to say I don't have fears because I don't want things to, which might not be true. You know what? Rats. Rats. Rats in general, okay? Um, I love a hood rat though, so shout out to my hood rat friends. But like rats in general, like real rats. When I was little, I'm from Tacoma, Washington. I remember as a kid, I think we had little critters in the house. Here in Houston, at my great grandmother's house, we had critters. I've lived in apartments before where there are mice, and worked at schools where there are rats. And it's just something about a rat or a mouse that's just like, they're so sporadic. You don't know where they're coming from. They're kind of like the IRS or like wage garnishments. You don't know when they're coming, but they just come and they show up, and they be big and traumatic. And rats that is a fear. That is a fear. Rats. I know some people are not scared of lions and tigers and bears, but me, it's rats are a fear. Um, what is the most difficult thing you faced thus far, and what did you learn from the experience? Oh, I'm gonna be even more candid right now. I don't. I think the most difficult thing I have faced this year is what I kind of hit on earlier. I was hanging out with someone um, for months and really enjoying our time, and it was very undefined. And one day it was over. I had a candid conversation with the person about how I was feeling about them and how I was enjoying our time. And as soon as it started, it was over. And have never been ghosted like that in my life before. I don't think really in real life. And so having been ghosted is not just this like teeny bopper Gen Z thing that that it's not this like Instagram thing that people are talking about. I used to think that ghosting was like a white people thing or like a that kind of thing, like a young teenage thing, and it's not. At 41 years old, I was ghosted by someone that I loved and cared heavily about. And so for me, the hardest thing lately has been mourning someone who is still alive, having to occasionally see someone that still exists. Um, Other men that I've been with and people that I've dated, we agreed that the relationship was over, or there may have been a break, or a traumatic thing, or a fight, or like an end. But looking for a comma where there's a period has been really hard for me. Waking up every day, trying to put myself, trusting God to put me back together. Um, Going to the places that we've been before, or seeing the restaurants that we went to, or sitting in the places that we've been, that's been really, really hard for me. Um, Talking to people and saying, this person is really, really awesome. And then someone seeing you and say, hey, where is this person? And when you thought you were really, really strong, you almost feel like you're going to crumble right there in that spot when someone asks you, or having to smile when you really, really, really want to cry. Weeks ago, I was saying that it felt like tears live at the edges of my eyes, but they won't fall to my face. And that has been the thing these last few weeks. I would say the last 4 to 5 weeks that has been really, really hard for me. Having to forgive someone who won't, at this point, issue you an apology, that has been really hard. Feeling embarrassed to walk into rooms when things are being said about you that are untrue, that is really hard. Um, and reminding myself that I'm a good person and that my character is really good. And um, that's really hard. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the thing that I've been facing lately. But again, when you're going through it, it's called going through it, right? And we can choose to either lay down and die and be a victim, or we can choose to stand up and be a victor. And that's not easy. I think all these cool like colloquialisms and these sayings, they're easy to say, but they're not easy to live. And so some days I do feel like very strong. And then it may be like 20 minutes later where I'm like, shit. Some days I'm in the prayer closet praying, and it may be like 3 hours later where I'm like, damn, I miss him, you know? So that's it. That's the thing. I'm really, these questions is tough. It's hidden. I'm gonna move on to section two. So section two is love, sexuality, and truth. Um, what does love mean to you, and what ways has love impacted you? I used to hear my dad say a long time ago that love is unconditional. And I think that love is unconditional, but it's also an act. And I don't even think, not just romantically, I think I'm a member of a fraternity. I have line brothers. I have siblings. I have parents who, thank God, are still alive. I have coworkers who have become like family to me. Men that I have been involved with and almost on the road to marriage and child adoption with. I think that to me, love means it means being unconditional, showing up for someone when you don't want to. Sometimes when you don't feel like it, that could mean like picking up your best friend's kid from school when you don't want to, sitting in traffic on I-10 to go support somebody at a birthday dinner, making love when you don't feel like you want to make love tonight. If you are in the LGBTQ plus community and you are a black male or a male who receives, uh, you know what that is like. Or if you're a man who gives, you also know what that's like. Um, Doing that when you don't want to. Having to tolerate someone or accept someone when it's hard. Like, I think love is just unconditional. Um, and I think love has impacted me. And I'm gonna talk less romantic, but more like platonic and familiar. I think love has impacted me in a way that I have been loved by people for so long. I can walk into a room, and I'm able to say this now with like my chest. I can walk into a room and people be like, Jamar, you're here. Or someone say, I was missed. Or when I was there, I was felt. Or they look forward to seeing me. And before, I just heard those things, but I didn't realize those things. And so at 41 years old now, I am able to feel love when before I could just hear love. And I think that has taken me working on myself. And so, um, yeah, love has impacted me because I feel love now. And I think that that is something that I'm grateful that even in the break, that God has allowed me to feel that because in the past, I think I chased relationships with men because I didn't feel loved. I heard love, but I didn't feel love. And so now I'm able to almost kind of like when people be like, be an independent woman, be an independent person, get your own thing. Like I am able to go out there and get my own bag, which is love. So that when a new man comes or I find a new man, I'm not looking for him to add that to me. If he adds it, that's great, but I already have it myself. And I'm able to feel that now. Go me. The next question is be honest. Have you ever thought about spinning the block on an ex? Um, I won't say that I thought about spinning the block on an ex, but I dated two wonderful men who are now married. And I have thought like, dang, what would it have been like if I would have stayed committed to that? What would have been like if I was in that space still? Would I have been with them? Would we be married? Would I be at home making a chicken in the crock pot or roasting some? I don't even know how to cook, so I guess I hope that's a thing. But I do think about that. Like, what would that have been like? But then I also remind myself like time and place, time and season. I honor the time that we spent together, and clearly I'm not supposed to be their husband. So I don't think I've ever wanted to spin the block. What I will say is this, and this is not everyone. I am friends with like 98.9% of my exes, and it is healthy, platonic friendships. At times their partners know about me, or they do know about me, or I met the partners or the husbands or the what have you. I am generally friends with my exes. And so I don't want to spin the block. And I'm also really, really, really grateful that they allow me to be in their lives because there was one in particular who, actually two in particular, who I wasn't mature enough. And this is a little bit over 10 years ago. I wasn't ready. Again, going back to the love that you hear but you don't feel, or that you're willing to accept. I wasn't ready to move forward with those men. So I sabotaged both of those relationships. Um, and I'm so grateful that they allow me to still be around because people don't have to allow you to be in their space, and that's also something that I am myself taking up. I don't have to allow anybody to be around. So when people allow me to be around after I have wronged them, I'm so grateful. So I'm very grateful to them. Um, has your approach in dating evolved over the years? What are some things that you used to tolerate that you do not now? I would say again, if you are a black gay man, you know what the apps are and were. I remember back in the day, Black Gay Chat, Adam for Adam, even College Club. Um, my approach to dating used to be getting on the apps because I came from a time where I was at Prairie View at HBCU in the early 2000s, figuring myself out. I came to college with a girlfriend and left with a whole boyfriend trying to get married. But my approach used to be getting on the apps because being gay and trying to date and figure yourself out was a secret thing. It was a backroom thing. It was a after hours in the dark meet up with no profile pictures. Like we see each other when we meet up. Like that was it. And my approach now is I think people approach me more because I am a social media personality. I am in our community. And so I get the opportunity to engage with people a little bit more organically. But I'm also reminding myself that every good man is not my man. And just because we gay, we don't got to be together. So that's also an approach of mine that I'm taking. It's okay to flirt, but flirt don't mean we got to do anything else. No other F's. We can flirt. We don't got to do no other F's. And some things that I used to tolerate that are total deal breakers now. I think um allowances, just allowing people to do too much. Um I would be okay with my partner maybe not investing as much time because I knew he cared about me. I would be okay with my partner um doing a certain thing and me being like, I don't like that, but I allow it because I knew he cared about me. But there's a difference, a saying that I've kind of been living with is impact versus intention. Your intention may have been, oh, well, Jamar, we're going to go on this trip, or I'm going to call you back, I'm going to do this thing, and it doesn't happen. And the impact that that has for me It kind of in certain spaces devalues the relationship or takes away or draws down on what I thought it is that we were building. And so one of my non-negotiables now is just not accepting everything and anything from a man to be loved and to be wanted, because I am very worthy and I full 100% with my chest know that now. I feel like my worth has been like a piggy bank building up, and now it's like ready to topple over. So I don't have to just take you coming in here robbing from me because I can move forward. And so I think something that I'm not willing to tolerate anymore is being around, not just with men, but at a job, with friends, in a social setting, in a room, in clothes. Anything that doesn't make my nervous system feel good, which is essentially my spirit of discernment, I'm not gonna vibe with it. And I'm proud of that because the old me laid down and took a lot of things because of love. Um, can you identify a moment when you decided to live your life as authentically you and as real as possible? Um, I think I'm learning that moment every day. I had a friend, my friend Candace, shout out to Candace, in the pandemic said, "So what was your coming out story?" And I was like, I really never had a coming out story. I told a couple people I was gay. I told myself I was gay. And that was it. And she was like, "So you come out every day?" And I was like, "Damn, that's very profound, right?" And I think a lot of that was rooted in trauma. Growing up with parents who I didn't feel initially were affirming, parents who grew up in a generation where, their friend at the church was the piano player, the choir director, or the gay boy around the corner, or the person who was gay but nobody really said it, or the cousin in your family who's gay but nobody really talks about it. And he's got to be straight because he had a girlfriend. He went to prom before. Um, and so I just there were so many things that told me that it was wrong to be me. Going to an HBCU and trying to pledge a fraternity while you're an undergrad and not feeling affirmed or feeling like, you can't be too much of this if you want to get that. Having friends at times who uh, would discuss you in your absence. All of those things where I felt like barriers to me being myself, and then compounded on the fact that you enter into education. I remember there was a time when I was a test monitor at a school that I worked at, and I had to be the restroom monitor, and the kids were going in and out the restroom, and a kid went to his mom and said, "My teacher was watching me pee." Technically, that was not true. In retrospect, that was true. I was the restroom monitor, so I'm having to stand across the restroom, take your restroom pass, and watch you go in the restroom. But the way that student presented it to their parent was that there's this big black gay guy standing over the commode watching you pee and pull out your penis. And so, of course, the next day I get to work, the principal is like, "Hey, I need to talk to you. You're removed from your post." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Mind you, if you are a teacher, you know that's the easiest job, being a restroom monitor during the start or the testing season. And so, um, that was like, well, I can't bring my truth to work. And so I didn't really 100% feel free until 2018 when I retired from teaching and I moved to a nonprofit. And they had like LGBTQ plus partner benefits. They had like rainbow flags everywhere. It was like the most gayest place you could ever work. And I was like, these are my people. Um, and I felt actualized and realized because not only was I was able to like have all the intersectionalities of my life meet, right? Um, but then also because I am a more feminine man and I loved masculine men at the time, and I felt like those are the types of men that I had to be with because I felt that a masculine man would protect me because I didn't feel man enough to protect myself. I often found myself dealing with men who, while they loved me, they loved the idea of me, they loved the concept and how funny I was and how jovial I was, and of course, how great I was in bed. Um, they loved all those things, but they didn't love themselves enough to love me publicly. And because they didn't love themselves enough to love me publicly, I was at some points in certain parts of relationships okay with being loved privately, which again puts you back in a closet. And I often like to say now, I have several closets in my home, and I don't want to go inside of any of them. I will not be unless I'm getting clothes and bringing them out. And so, I think every day I'm actualizing myself. Every day I'm coming more out. Every day I'm being more of me. I hope they answered the question to the person who asked it. Here's a good one. This isn't for everyone. Some of you may know this. When we were in college, there was a time that our friend circle was discussing you, talking about your sexuality. Someone in our circle took it upon himself to talk on our behalf to you. And as a result, you were extremely mad and didn't talk to us for a while. My question is, were you battling with your acceptance of your sexuality at this time or in denial still? Um, and then there's the second part to this question. That was a really, really hurtful time in my life because people that you have grown up with since like middle school, high school, now in college, there's a group. I've always been a part of a group, whether a friend group, a family group, a fraternity group. I'm a group kind of person. And so when my friends, and I'm a sophomore in college and I'm trying to figure it out, and I've got a boyfriend that I can't really introduce people to. I'm trying to be in a fraternity. I'm going to school every day, and just like what I now realize is, even in this moment, developing a little bit of anxiety, even seeing a guy at the time who wasn't out. I That was really hurtful for me, for my friends to discuss me, because this was my safe space. These were the people that I would run to, but also I was living another life that I couldn't share with them because I was afraid. I went to an HBCU. If you went to my school at the time, we had this thing called 20 questions, and everyone was afraid to be in 20 questions. Whatever you do from Wednesday to Wednesday, you got to watch. You got to be on your best behavior because you will end up in those questions. And so that was also one of my fears, is like being gay, being out, ending up in 20 questions and people outing me. And a lot of the times people assigned my sexuality to me before I could assign it. People told my truth before I could tell it. So to answer the question, I wasn't battling my sexuality. I think I was battling everyone else who wasn't okay with my sexuality. I was embracing my sexuality slowly but surely. And you have to know that at that time, I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have anyone to say, Jamar, it's okay to be gay. I didn't even have anyone to teach me how to have gay sex. I had to learn that on my own. Condoms, lube, penetration, oral sex, all the things. I had to learn all those things, STD tests. I had to learn all those things. And at the time, a lot of that was based in fear, because also the rhetoric is like gay, HIV, AIDS, sex, all those things. And then God forbid that you like actually want to date a man and bring him home to your parents. So I'm having to learn everything in real time. And so again, I wasn't battling my sexuality. I think I was battling the people who were coming to terms with my sexuality. And I wasn't in denial. I never was in denial about myself. I think I was in denial about who I was around. And that's not a shot at my friends. That's just the truth. Like, I was in denial that a lot of different people had my best interest at heart and they didn't. But I think I've always worn rose-colored glasses. And if you know me, a lot of my relationships and a lot of situations, I look at them with rose-colored glasses. And sometimes that is my benefit, and sometimes that is my detriment. And so the other part of that question was also, had you begun to have consensual relationships? I did. Y'all, I had a boyfriend in college at that during this time period when my friends were discussing me. I was seeing one guy who wasn't out, and that didn't work out. But I had this boyfriend who I loved this man down. I used to write poems. My mama had bought me the computer with the big back, is what I like to call them, the big desktops, and I had the whole CD-ROM and all that. I used to type these poems about this man and stay on his phone with him all night long. And I just love this man. And I dated him from the time I was like a sophomore in college until like my first year of teaching. And we were going to get in the car, drive to California, run away, get married. So for all of you who knew me back then, I had a man. And I loved him so much. But it didn't work out. And so, yeah, I did have a really heavily consensual relationship, and I loved him down. I'm going to move on. We got a few more question sets here. Mental health and self-compassion. Do you personally cope during periods of stress, anxiety, or depression? Um, One thing that has really been getting me by in these past like 30 days almost is journaling. I always journal. I've been in therapy since 2020, but I would say dealing with what has recently happened with me, and the sometimes feeling like you're breaking, is journaling. I wake up every day. I do a devotional. I write devotionals, and then I don't just write them, but I also do them. And I think admitting on paper the shit that hurts me or has hurt me, giving myself permission to say, I didn't like that, giving myself permission to say, this person really wronged you, giving myself permission to say, this was fucked up. And being okay saying fuck, but also saying a prayer after that, or being okay saying, hey, God, I ain't like that. And then like shit, like giving myself permission. That's how I'm coping. That's how I cope. If you could go back and give your younger self advice about mental health, what would you say? Get that therapist and stay there. That's what I would tell myself. And it's okay to um to not feel good. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to like have a bad day. And that sounds so simple. But again, rose colored glasses. It's okay to admit like this is a fucked up day. And it's just a day. It's just a moment. It's not your whole life. I think a lot of the times we let one day turn into a week or one day turn into a lifetime of things. And that's not dismissing people who have diagnosed or undiagnosed mental illnesses and things that they're dealing with or coping with their traumas. But sometimes we let something that's this small turn into this large. I would also tell myself that it is anxiety. It is anxiety. During COVID, the reason why I started seeing my therapist, shout out to Gloria, is that I was having a response to panic, to anxiety, to where I had COVID symptoms, shortness of breath, loss of thought, unclear thoughts, all the things. I literally was having what I thought was COVID every day, and it was anxiety. So I would tell myself it's anxiety. Um, are you scared of your full potential? I am not scared of my full potential. I That's a hard ass question though. Am I scared of my full potential? No. I think I more so would be scared of what would happen if I don't play out my full potential. I want when I leave this earth that I'm like, I left it all on the floor. I did everything that God told me to do. A long time ago, I used to say, I have more career dreams than I have like person, right? But I have been a journalist, I have been a teacher, I have been an entrepreneur, I have been a consultant, I have been an author, I have been a public health worker. I think there may be something else in there that I'm missing, but um, not being ashamed to like add all those ticks to the resume, and that's okay. So no, I'm not scared of my full potential. I think I'm scared of what'll happen if I don't. Something else that I heard maybe Mike Todd say, Pastor Mike Todd, or someone say during the pandemic. Um, Slow obedience is still disobedience. And I know that there are tasks that I have to accomplish, things that I have to do, lives that I have to touch before I get out of here. And so to be slow to do it is still being disobedient. Just like I'm sitting here filming this, I must admit that I was disobedient for a while because I was slow to get this show back up and running. I was slow to deposit the money. I was slow to save. I was slow to write these questions or get them from people or develop show concepts because of fear. And I'm still working through why. But no, I'm not scared of my potential. Scared of the ass whooping that I'll get if I don't live up to my potential. What is the hardest conversation you've had to have with your younger self? Um, and what advice would you give to 10-year-old Jamar, or what is something you wish he knew? That's pretty loaded. So I'll say the hardest conversation I've had to have with myself is that the sexual trauma that I sustained because I survived it as a child, um, one, wasn't my fault, and two, you were a kid. Um, Also, some of the decisions, the sexual decisions that I made in my adolescence, in my youth, in my growing, um, owning that it was you were experimenting. You were trying to figure it out. You didn't have a mentor. You didn't have anybody to hold your hand. You didn't have anybody to say, "Hey, when you're having sex, you need to use some of that lube," or "Hey, use that condom." Not beating myself up about that. I think a lot of the times in gay world we experience a lot of guilt, and that's pushed down from so many different places, systemically, lack of education, lack of knowledge, lack of health, access to resources. So I would say that. And then something I would say to 10-year-old Jamar, advice that I would give him: you're gonna be gay. You're gonna be gay, big dog. It's all right. You're gonna be gay. You gay. You gay. It's cool. No matter how many girls you kiss, no matter how many titties you touch, you gay. And that's okay. That's what I would tell me. Moving on. And we're almost done. I really love these questions. I'm glad we did this single frame. Friendship and community. What motivates you to maintain friendships even in or after rough patches? This is something that's really hard. I have friends that have wronged me that I am still actively working to forgive, and we kiki and chit chat every day. I think what motivates me, I don't really have a concrete answer. I think it's the good times, maybe the times that we still get to have. I have a couple. I have one friend in particular that I think I pretty much resolved it this week within myself. And that's something else too, right? Like we often feel that we got to tell everybody everything. I think in our Black culture, sometimes I know I grew up with don't let nobody punk you. Don't let nobody take advantage of you. Don't let nobody, if somebody say something, speak up for yourself. You always got to fight. You got to prove yourself. You got to do this and that. Um, and so I was pretty rah-rah to certain people, pretty confrontational or passive aggressive as well. But you don't have to talk to everybody about everything. Everything don't gotta be an argument. Everything don't gotta be a waiting to excel moment. You ain't gotta burn a car down burning. Everything ain't gotta be all that. Some things you resolve within yourself because you need to resolve them within yourself. And it's okay to still be in community with people while you are hurting and while you're trying to figure out that relationship. And I wish I could go back and tell myself, you don't have to cut every single person off. I also heard someone else say that it's okay to still be friends with someone, but the level of intimacy change. The level of access that they have to you changes. And I have friends to this day that I love them down, but the level of intimacy that we have has changed. The level of access that they have to me has changed. And that is not a slight to them. That is in protection and defense of myself, because I know me. I will overly give, I will overly commit because I love someone so, 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 so much. And you will benefit while I hurt. And so, boundaries that I set sometimes are not often for other people, they're really for me. Come on, that's a word. Okay. Um, How do you manage for showing up for your friends when you have so many? And how are you present for them all in some way? I can't anymore. I used to be like, I'm gonna go to this birthday dinner. I'm gonna go to his baby christening. I'm gonna go to this housewarming. I'm gonna go to this engagement. I'm gonna do this sleepover. We gonna do this. I can't do it. I just can't. I got to be there for myself, and that's something hard too, because coming out of people pleasing, coming out of wanting to have, being under the spirit of influence and acceptance and rejection, all those things, those are the things that make you show up at the $300 birthday dinners. Those are the things that make you take a trip to Tulum that you cannot afford. I can't do it no more, big dog. I don't have it in me. It's just not my journey anymore. So I show up how I can, and I'm learning in this moment. So I'm not gonna say I perfected it, but I'm learning in this moment to just let people know, like, hey, I can't. I had a friend call me today and ask for me to help make a very big life changing decision. And I had to say, hey, I just can't. I felt bad about it, but then I also had to affirm myself to be like, you don't even have it in you to do that. Emotionally, you don't have it. Mentally, you don't have it. You don't. That's not your capacity right now. And again, a lot of those boundaries that I'm now setting, those barriers that I'm setting with my friends and my loved ones, it's not about them. It's about me, because people will take, and they don't always mean to take in a bad way, but people gonna take as long as you give it. You pull up to the bank and invest money, they gonna take your money as long as you got it. And so in the bank of relationships, people will take until you stop. And so I've got to set a boundary for myself in my giving. And sometimes that looks like being alone. Sometimes that looks like going to the movies by yourself on a Friday. Sometimes that looks like I had to miss your birthday dinner. Sometimes that looks like, ooh, your baby got christened. I just catch it on Instagram Live, right? That's what it looks like sometimes for me. And I think a lot of people have come to expect me to do so much because I show up so hard. Um, My mama just had surgery last week and I found myself overly showing up. Not that, and she didn't ask me for these things, but I felt like, well, I got to help my mama. It's my mama, but also getting to the root of like, why did I feel that way? I had a parent who died suddenly, um, what, 12 years ago? And so getting that phone call at 11 o'clock at night when you're going to bed after a long week at work and now you find out that your parent is dead. My mama had a stroke, a year and a half ago. Being on the phone with my mom while she's having this stroke in real time, like those are things that are traumatic things that I hadn't even worked out yet. So when my mom had surgery, I'm like, I gotta be there for her. What happens? What if a fluke accident happened? Like all these things that you're trying not to think of, but you're processing at the same time and reminding myself, it's okay if you go to work and leave your mama there. She gonna be all right. And she is. Shout out to my village though too, because my village plus HEB, my mama good. And the good people at Methodist. Or is it Baylor? It was Baylor. Sorry, it was Baylor. Don't sue me. But yeah, just scaling back. Are there any moments in life where you felt fully seen and understood? I remember. I am a member of the oldest and coldest fraternity. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. My line brother, eons ago, I came out to my line brothers, and if you are Greek and you've been through, you know that sometimes you don't have the opportunity because you focus on other goals and other things when you're trying to get these letters. So there are some things you just don't have the time to have conversations about. But I remember my line brothers and I had went out to eat, and one of my line brothers was trying to hook me up with the waitress, and I was like, please don't do that. He's like, no, my line brother, he's just being shy. He wants your number. And I was like, please don't do that. So then the lady comes to the table, and he's like, hey, my line brother trying to get at you. And I said, hey, ma'am, I'm really sorry. I'm not interested. And she was like, it's okay. I'm married anyway. And I was like, cool. But I told my line brothers at that point, I said, hey, guys, I thought we all knew this, but I'm gay. But my line brother, I'm going to use his name because I want to be able to say the names of people who are allies and who love you and who respect you. Just as much as we need to say the names of those people who are not, we need to say the names of the people who are. But my line brother, Dustin, I remember we were all walking out the restaurant, and not that anyone else didn't embrace me, but he hugged me. And he was like, I'm not going to stop hugging you in public. I ain't going to stop loving you, bro. Like we the same before this. And Dustin has been one of my strongest advocates and allies. He even almost was gonna kill somebody for me once, but which is a whole thing in itself. FBI, if you're watching, we didn't do it. But I felt so seen by him, and I felt so safe in a place, in a fraternity where homosexuality is not often embraced across the Divine Nine with males. I will say that. Homosexuality is often shunned, or homosexuality is often looked at as a backdoor, private, in the dark, clandestine thing, if you will, at times, or an agenda. I had a black man, a heterosexual man who loved me as me. So I felt really seen, and thank you for that, Dustin. Um, what do you wish more people, especially allies, understood about your experience? I am not your gay trope. I I am a black gay man who loves to get his fingernails painted. My toes are often white or blue, depending on what OPI I use. I like to keep my skin up, but these are not things that are necessarily have to be gay things. But I really wish that people understood I am not your gay trope. I had put a barrier between myself and a good friend who I still love because I think I was her gay doll. Nothing itches my ass more than when I meet someone and they're like, "Yes, queen, slay the house down." It's not even that; it's this anyway. But I hate that because it's like, why you just can't talk to me regular, big dog? Like, I'm still tall, a man. I got a beard. I got nice athletic legs. Like, you don't want to notice any of those other things. You don't be like, "Hey, you running track?" No, you just be like, "Yes, queen, what's up?" I don't. Please, that gets me. That my God in heaven, nothing makes me want to drag you away from the table more than that. But I hate that. I wish people about my experience would just ask me, like, how do you want to be spoken to? How do you want to identify yourself? But I also noticed that in dating, I wish that the men that I date, and I understand, I heard Pastor Mike Todd say that sometimes your type is the type that will hurt you. Was that Mike Todd? I think he said that, or somebody said it. One of these really great people said it. But your type is also the type that will hurt you. And so you might need a new type, or let go and let God direct the type. But in dating, because my experience has mostly been in my coming up and in my actualization of myself, masculine black men, whether they identify as queer or straight or whatever, confused, those men often sometimes regard you as a woman. And I've noticed that in some, this is not a catch-all, but in some spaces, some black men revere the black gay man in the same way that they view the black woman, which is equal to one another and beneath them. And so, because of that, sometimes they will talk down to you or treat you like they think a woman wants to be treated, which is already problematic in some spaces in itself. So, I just wish that in my experience that people would ask me what I want, right? Ask me how I want to be talked to. Ask me how I want to be made love to. Ask me where I want to go. Ask me what I want to do. I'm a person. I can advocate for myself. Now I can. Um, what is one joy or triumph from your black queer experience that you wish more people asked you about? This is a hard one. I guess more about my story. Again, as I said earlier, I still don't really have a coming out story. It's just I'm coming out every day. I'm creating this lane that I'm in every day. So I guess the triumph is like, how you doing it? Like I think that's it. How are you doing it? How is your story? Just asking me about me. As someone who's connected and a part of so many communities, Black, male, LGBTQ, Alpha Phi Alpha, Christian, how important is community to you? And do you feel they are all equal or do some rank higher than others? I will say this, I think that I'm grateful for all of my communities. Um, there are ebbs and flows in your communities, ebbs and flows in my relationships. I often feel a little bit more what the hell and triggered during Pride Month, being a member of a Divine Nine organization and not just my fraternity, but a part of the Black community fraternity sorority experience in totality, because a lot of the times we have these queer Black men and women um, and those who don't identify or assimilate to either, we have these queer Black people who prop up our organizations, pay the dues, lead the chapters, direct the community service, do the strolls, get the line jackets, get the girls to the parties, organize the conventions, all those things, but we don't praise and lift them up. I had a brother, can't think of his name, but shout out to him. You know who you are. He talked about this the other day. There have been campaigns around Latino men in fraternities, around prostate cancer, around veterans, all these different subsets, but no campaign for LGBTQ plus men when there's LGBTQ plus men in all of those subsets. It's okay to be in this organization, but don't be too loud about it or don't expect to be recognized. And so during Pride Month, I often if I'm being honest, I have questioned a number of times, is this still where you want to be? I never wanted to change. I've had people say to me, so I'm not going to say change. I've had people say to me, why don't you just go be in a gay fraternity? Because I never wanted to be in a gay fraternity. I wanted to be a gay member of this fraternity. And there are some spaces that you are called to that you must advocate and that you must change and you must speak up for. But then there are also times where, just like how we see Black women and Black people now, some of these things are not our fight. I'm tired sometimes. Sometimes I just want to be the Black gay member that paid his dues. That's it. That's all I want to be. So, also, moving forward, we got a few more here. Forgiveness, boundaries, and protection. And if you're still here with me, I really, really appreciate you. I know we usually are at an hour. We got a few more minutes to go, a little bit over an hour. Very excited. So, forgiveness, boundaries, and protection. Tell us, what boundaries do you have set to not allow people to take advantage of you? Um, I'm still learning it, but I would say, in short, what doesn't feel good to my nervous system, I got to back away from it. That's one boundary that I have. If it doesn't feel good, stop going where you're not accepted. Stop going where you're only tolerated. Stop going where, Jamar, where You want to belong, but you know you don't belong. Stop going to those places, and those places can be people. Um, I have a really close relative who I've had to recently come to the realization it just may never work between us, right? So stop chasing that thing. When we sometimes we chase the things that don't serve us, we often ignore the things and the people that do serve us, and then those people end up slighted. I heard the singer Donnie say, "You've got your back turned to me while someone else has their back turned to you," and I don't want to do that. I just want to turn around and face the people who are cheering and applauding for me. Um, Tell us about your journey of forgiving and how has it healed or is healing you. I am still walking a journey of forgiveness. And learning that it is okay to forgive somebody and release them has been a thing for me. I would forgive someone for something really, really bad, which I believe you should always forgive, but I would keep people around and keep them in the same position. At a job, if you don't do your job, you will get demoted. You may not get fired or fired immediately, but you may not be the director anymore. You may not be the supervisor. You may just be moved down to manager or associate. I have kept a lot of people in director's position who should have been associates, interns, or fired. And so now what I am doing is moving some people from director to associate, intern, and fired. And I think the firing has been really, really, really hard for me because my therapist told me a couple years ago, you collect people. And that collecting people was a part of acceptance and rejection. And um, goodbyes have always been a challenge for me. Even down to like, I remember one of my line brothers, he got a job, God, maybe 8 or 9 years ago in Corpus Christi. You could have swore this man had was moving to Virginia somewhere. I was distraught. Then another line brother moved to San Antonio. Then another line brother to New York. Then another line brother to Dallas. I was like, where are y'all going? Stay here. Y'all stupid. But anyway, goodbyes have been a challenge for me. But things are going to be a challenge until you face them. So if you don't face them head on, God's going to continue, and I believe, to continue to allow those same lessons to show up until you master them. So circling back to the question, there are people who I've had to demote in my life. And again, I said earlier in the show today, you can still be cool with certain people, but the level of intimacy and the level of access changes. That doesn't mean they're bad people. That just means they're not good for you in that moment and in that way. I have had to, and I am having to stop chasing things and people that do not serve me. Because if I'm going to get ahead in the race, I can't keep staying at start. I just can't. Um, how many people do you wish you could unlove? Um, I I don't know if I wish that I could unlove anyone, whether it be romantically or as a friend. But again, going back to what I just said, I do wish I had been working through this. There is a friend who I've allowed to stay around that I didn't realize I was beating myself up because I'm like, dang, you let this person go, or you set the boundary with this person. You should have been set it with this person, and you didn't. And y'all had conversations, y'all worked through it. But there were times that I've honestly wished that I wasn't still in community with this person. But what I realized was that was really just me being hard on myself for a deficiency that I had. So I hope that answers the question. We are at the last set of questions, so I'm really excited. If you're still here, I hope you learned some good things about me because I'm learning right now. Um, what would you say are the most challenging aspects of a career change? I said a little while ago, I have had a lot of careers. I think the most challenging aspect for me is, again, going back to the letting go, the realizing who people really are, the levels of intimacy. If you're a teacher and you know this, we're not really trained professionally on how to deal with corporate America. We're not trained on that. So when I moved into corporate America, I trusted so many people. And the challenge in a career change for me is not trusting my managers. I just had to advocate for myself recently for something at a company that I work with. And There was someone else that I had trusted to advocate for me that dropped the ball, and I had to go back and pick it up and slam dunk it, and then receive an apology after that. And so, the challenge is trusting people and not trusting people, and being okay with having the courageous conversations. Hey, I feel like this contract that y'all issued me as an entrepreneur, I feel like that's not enough money. Hey, I feel like the hours you're expecting me to work, that's you want more than what you're willing to give. Hey, your brand doesn't align with my brand or my mission and values. So the challenge again is trusting people. Um, and again, you pull up to that bank, you pour your money in, they're gonna take as much money as you're willing to give. You pull up to that company and you put your time in, they're gonna take as much time as you're willing to give if you and you're not asking for anything in return. And also understanding that reciprocity is okay, and it is okay to walk away when something does not align. But I'm also learning in this moment and asking God, I do want to walk away from certain people and places and organizations, but I want to wait for your time, God. Because sometimes while we're waiting to walk away from a thing, you're not being taken advantage of. You're really being hidden. God really has you set aside and set apart. And I know that's reflected in the Bible that we are God's people chosen and set apart, right? Sometimes God has you set apart. Um, and it's like you're in a holding pattern, and then He gonna release you, and you're gonna get something greater. I heard a lady on Instagram the other day say, "God, show me how good it can get." And she began to tell this story about that has been her prayer, and God just started unloading the clip on her blessings. She was in New York for work, and someone called her and said, "Hey, do you want to go to a Broadway show? If you get to New York, I'll pay for it." She's like, "Oh, I'm already here." Went to the show. So I added to that. That witnessed to me so well. Um, I added to it. God, show me how good it can get, but allow me to experience it and embrace it. So that's my prayer. If you could design the perfect support system for yourself, mentally, creatively, spiritually, what would that look like, and what piece of it are you still working to build? I think the support system that I would want to build for myself, I think I have a great group of friends. I got my circle, shout out to the circle. I got my line brothers, shout out to the impenetrable. I got some of my fraternity brothers. Shout out to the PV alphas. Um, but I think the piece of my support system that I would want to build is a husband and a child. I've always wanted a son, and I've always wanted a husband. So I think that's the piece. And I'm working. I don't think I'm working to build that. I'm just letting God do it because I tried it. I tried to build a man this whole time. We see where that got me. So I'm just standing still, letting God do His thing. And sometimes I realize that relationships for me can get in the way of my career success. So I don't want that anymore. As a man of God, has your faith walk always been easy? Name a time when you struggled with your faith and you overcame. Um, Walking with God has not always been easy. Walking with God has, because again, the thing in me that wanted to people please and be hard on myself or overanalyze or be anxious, that has been hard for me. So the walk with God sometimes has, because it's like I wanted to be so perfect, and where that came from was the fear of going to hell. I know that a lot of us have a healthy fear of not wanting to go to hell, do the right thing, but mine was rooted in my sexuality. I thought I was good in all levels of my life, and 2020 was the year that I got free. Maybe it was even 2021. I had been in therapy for almost a year, maybe 9 months, and it was COVID. So my therapist and I were FaceTiming, and we started this session. I've been seeing her for almost a year, and I told her everything about my life, and we never talked about my sexuality. And I just was like, this is just the part I won't share with her. And she looked in that camera and said to me, Jamar, you know God loves you regardless of your sexual orientation, right? And those few words set me so free, because up until that I was like, I gotta do everything right. If I don't, I'm gonna go to hell, right? Like, cause I'm already gay. So like, if I just do this, if I do all this other stuff right, just the gay part God will overlook when I get to heaven. And it is my belief that if God loves me and God is love and God created me and God created me in His image, God knew I was gonna be gay. He saw me in my mama's womb. He knew I was gonna be gay. And so if God created me, He created my gay. That's how I feel. And so that may not resonate with everyone, and that's okay. But I think I again, my walk has not always been easy because I thought I was going to hell until I was like 36, 37. I did all these great things and was the first at this company and the first in this district and these huge recognitions and these big salaries and all of these accomplishments in a fraternity, all these things. But until I was 36, 37, I thought I was going to hell. So it's gotten easier for me. Um and what this is from my parent. What does parenthood look like for you at this stage in your life? And would you be willing to adopt as a single parent in the absence of the partner? Are you giving yourself a time limit? Um, Parenthood looks like for me waiting. I really want a son. I've been also scared because I felt like at some points in my life I wasn't man enough. So how can you show a man how to be a man if you're not a man? But I also realized that's probably the same fear that any straight or gay person has anyway. We all trying to figure out how to be a man. So, um, and I'm giving myself time, but I'm also not a limit, right? I think the fortunate part, the privilege that I have of being a man that doesn't have a time regulated reproductive system is that I can adopt whenever. I can use my semen to implant whenever. I'm not giving myself a limit. And if God decides I'm not going to have a baby, I'm just not. But I believe I'm set aside to be a parent. Um, my parent also said, I want to see you be a biological parent, which to me, biological parent mean I got to put a baby in somebody, whether scientifically or naturally. We ain't gonna do the natural one. But I know you would be good at it, which thank you. What is the reason that is keeping you from becoming a parent? I don't want to be a single parent. This is nothing to my friends who are single parents because y'all are doing it. Especially the women. Shout out to the girls who are doing it. I don't want to raise a baby by myself. My life is so full. I've been trying to get away from saying busy. My life is so full that I don't want to raise a baby alone. And I do want to have a husband. I do want to have a child or more than one. So, and I also know with the economy and the tariffs, and all the things are money is a thing. And so I want to be able to raise a child in a healthy two income household, a two parent household that is healthy too. And as the parent of a gay adult child, what is the best way to support you? I really appreciate this. And I'm gonna call my mama out. My mama wrote this question. I really appreciate that. And I think it speaks to the affirmingness of and I think I love you, mom, for that because I wish more black parents would say this to their grown children because this type of question goes back and retroactively heals me. Um, I think the best way to support me is just to continue to do what you do. Um, I'm excited to bring more men around you. You met the last one, and I'm excited for you to meet more. So I just continue to do your thing. I think ask questions, be curious, and be supportive. Um, and we're down to the last couple questions. In your ideal world, if you could have your way, what does the next decade look like for you? What are you doing? How you feeling? Who are you surrounded by? I think the next decade for me looks like being independent from a large conglomerate company while still scaling my business, which is OOTR Consulting. If you haven't looked at us, please go to www.ootrconsulting.com. Wonderful website built by Audrey Hargraves. But I think scaling my business, pouring into other businesses, being many places at once while still probably being at home behind a computer, being in the community, being of the community. I often like to say that I am like the male Issa D. So if you've ever watched Insecure, I'm definitely like that. That is what my career track is, what it looks like, my trajectory. I'm definitely Issa Rae, like more so the last two seasons than the first few, because my shit is getting even more together. Um, and I just would say being around my friends, being around my family, being supported with my husband. I want to live in a really nice neighborhood and have a run club. Um, and what brings you the most joy? Um, I think creating and connecting people to solutions. If you know me, you know I'm a an extreme connector. You can give me a problem and I'm gonna have a solution for you. You can say you need a thing, I'm gonna pair you with a person. I often say as well, in addition to the male Issa Rae, I'm like the male Olivia Pope, minus the scandal because I'm not sleeping with no white presidents, especially not this one. But I can solve a problem very quickly. I know that one of my giftings is not just people, but problem solving and crushing inequities. So it brings me joy to solve problems. Last two questions. We're in the home stretch. What is your favorite food? Because I really don't know. I kind of want to say something like I eat success for breakfast. I don't. That ain't gonna fill me up. I really like. I don't know. I've been into watermelon a lot lately, so I guess we could say watermelon. I love me some Chipotle. I love me some mod pizza. That is a real. It's funny that this is a question that's totally off the track of everything else, but I appreciate it. And I often struggle with going to Chick-fil-A because mostly Chick-fil-A don't support the blacks and they don't support the gays. It's like, damn, we got to give up Chick-fil-A too. I already said Walmart, Target, Amazon, and Starbucks. So I'm gonna just stick with that watermelon because I'm black. And finally, is there one last thing you want to leave with listeners, especially black queer men, about showing up for yourself, being seen, or loving who you are? I'm gonna say it is okay to walk away. I think as a black gay man, I've been so affixed, so attached to people, so wanting to be loved. It's okay to walk away. I've decided this week I'm gonna start taking myself on dates. You know what? That's it. Here's the advice. What camera? Is it this one? Is it this one? Boom. Here's the advice. Love yourself the same way you love these men. Pursue yourself the same way you pursue others. Chase yourself the same way you chase your dreams. Get up for yourself and show up for yourself the same way you show up for everyone else. That's it. Because if you and this is definitely an age-old thing. This has been said over and over again. But if you don't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else, right? And that's important. So show up for you the way that you show up for other people. I am very grateful for you being here. I want to shout out to every single person that submitted these questions. This has been our season 4.5 opener of Officially Off the Record, Me versus Me. I want you to stay tuned in to this season. We may not get it right all the time, but we're going to show up every single episode. Follow us on Instagram at Officially OTR. And follow us there. Follow us on Apple Music. Make sure that you do me a favor. Share this episode for a black person. This has been the season 4.5 opener, Me versus Me. I am Ramaj. I am also very grateful. Until next time, my friends. See you later.